So, John, this question is around success and fear. So, what are some ways the fear of success masks itself as something else? And how can I recognize that as a coach?
How does the fear of success? That's a like a three-part question.
It is. I guess it sounds like in the coaching context, when you're coaching a client, how might the fear of success be showing up? Like how do you know how to go really deep in a session, John? So I suspect
Right.
coaches looking for, like, how do you pick up on that?
Yeah, wow. Um I think it's interesting. Okay, so I think part of the challenge of as coaching or to say something shows up like this, or my client is dealing with success anxiety, or my client has ADHD, or they have fill in the blank, right? I think it's a challenge as a coach to operate under that my client has fill in the blank, period, no matter what that blank thing is. And especially when people put labels on it like, oh, I have fear of success, or I have this, or I have that. I feel like that label is extremely challenging to work through if it's not a label that the client has chosen, if it feels empowering for the client to take that on. So I think, yeah, that's my initial response is, all right, we are already in treacherous waters if we are thinking in terms of, okay, my client has a fear of success. How do I coach fear of success rather than how do I coach my client? And we talk a lot about this in the training, the idea of coaching the client, not the problem. This is exactly it. Interestingly enough, I think that let's say the fear of success is a real thing, right? It's something that is there. The coaching perspective would not try to solve it, would not even try to take it away, wouldn't even try to um, find a decision or solution for it, but would really use it as a means to generate deeper insights. So what about success is scary? What about success provokes fear? Uh, so those are the questions I would ask if I were the coach, if I thought, I think my client is fearing success right now.
And I know you've helped me to unmask this before, thinking about, yeah, never forgotten that question. You asked me, what healing still needs to
Mm,
be done. Remember,
mm-hmm,
I was,
mm-hmm.
stuck in past and some beliefs and assumptions that are actually holding me back from going to the next level. And for me, when thinking about the women in leadership programs that are run, and actually this has come out in values exercise before now, like what works for you, what might not be working for you, and some cultural work that I've done as well. I know for me, having a high value of humility, and I remember working with a client who that kind of helped to unmask her fear around success was it would mean that she's no longer staying true to being humble. Like, what
Mm,
does it mean to toot your own horn?
right. Yeah, I mean, and how would you know that unless you asked those questions and got there, or helped her get there? Yeah, what was the second part of that question? I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. What are some ways the fear of success masks itself as something else? And how can I recognize that as a coach?
Well, I think if okay, how do you recognize something as a coach? Yeah, this is coaching theory, and I think this is one of the reasons why I love coaching is that as a coach, you don't need to have a complete checklist diagnostic. Okay, wow, they've checked off 5 of 4 of these criteria. This is obviously this. Like that is the work of a psychologist. That is the work of a therapist. I look at it as completely beneficial from a coaching perspective to not have to do that. I'm thankful that there are professionals that operate in that way. I think therapy and consulting, mentoring, advising, all of the helping professions work in tandem, but they are different. And so the coaching perspective on this is we don't even have to know or even have a checklist at all. If you even have just a slight intuitive whisper, like I hear a small little whisper thinking, I think they're afraid of success. Then you can ask a question about it. You can say, okay, what's scary about being successful? Just go right into it. Just book. And then you'll just you'll hear things come up. You'll hear if you're right or if you're wrong. And then you just can adjust. And if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. You just throw the question out and keep going. If you're right, great. Then the client says, oh my goodness, that's there. Let's go down that road. And then the client is off on a new path and you're off and running again. So that's the beauty of coaching is I feel like you don't have to have that diagnostic checklist in order to become curious. And to me, that makes it amazing. That makes it such a cool profession because you can hear just the tiniest little whisper and follow it. And then that whisper might be the thing that unlocks whole new worlds for your client.
What might be an obvious whisper for someone who's quite new to coaching?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, when I'm listening to someone and I actively imagine I am the other person for a period of time. Like I will use all of my mental, emotional energy to like pretend I'm them. It's like my 6-year-old. He came out with he got some glasses and a little red little Spider-Man glasses, and he had a rope, and he was throwing the rope at a wall and pretending he was jumping from wall to wall. It was amazing. Like he stayed in character for a while. Little kids, they will stay in character for forever, and you're like, wow, that he is invested in the character. It's like that as a coach. You invest almost like it's almost like you take on the character of your client in a way, and you're in there and you're imagining you're them as you're listening. And when you do that, interesting things will pop up. You're like, that's interesting. I didn't expect that. Or unexpected things are on the radar screen. And then, so let's say someone's talking about something really hard, but you hear joy. Or someone is talking about something joyful, but you hear fear. Or something is, they're talking about something and you hear like, I wonder about this. And it makes no sense. I think it's the thing that makes no sense. That's what you go for. Or, that just gives you that information, but only if you are engaged in that active empathetic listening. That's the foundation. That is necessary, needs to happen, 100% be there, or else none of this other stuff works. Yeah.
Thanks, John. It's that curiosity superpower again, isn't it?
It takes commitment. It takes the same level of discipline as almost like an improv scene or imaginary, or anyone who's done acting. Like you commit to the character. It's like you commit to your client. Yeah, I've never thought about it like from a standpoint of like children's imaginative play, but it's extremely similar, especially when your client's talking. And sometimes the clients I work with, some clients I work with, they have a very, imaginative, visual friendly way of communicating. And then other clients, it can feel more murky or, like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know where this is going. I'm not getting a mental image. You know what I mean? Like it can feel like, ooh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I think when it's murky like that, then you can start asking questions that you feel like you have two options with that. One, you can ask questions about the process. Like, what about this process isn't working? Like, what's happening right now? Like, where's this question taking you? Like, what do you really want to get out of this session? What's the end goal here? And then I try to think in terms of geography. Like if I were thinking, because our brains are really wired that way too, where you can think in terms of, um, if you were imagining that a picture were happening or a movie was happening when someone's talking, uh, I find I'm just a better coach. Like if I can actually see them doing the things they're talking about, or if they're talking and just riding along a train of thought and it feels smooth, yeah, this is good. But if the train of thought feels jumpy and jolty, and you know, you can then ask questions about the train of thought, like almost meta questions.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I hope that helps for the fear of success, or really for anyone who's out there in the coaching world. Those who are coaching, I think they know what they're talking. They know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I love that. It's getting all the visuals, being right there with the person stepping into their world, like almost you're becoming part of that journey, aren't you, by understanding it?
I always felt when I was coaching a lot, we're talking about 4 or 5 hours a day. And I was meeting at coffee shops. And we were just making it as a young family only on coaching. We were financially month to month for 2 years. And that's stressful. That takes a toll. And I remember looking forward to coaching sessions, feeling like this is an hour of peace. Like this is an hour when I can just let all of my cares, worries, just set them there and be 100% over there with the other person. And there was someone asking, a new coach was asking recently, how do you square with like your life not being perfect in order for you to become a coach for someone else? And I think that, from this perspective, it's like, it's a helping profession. It's like a training session. It's like a job. You show up. It's like, it'd be like, well, I can't do my job until my life is totally perfect. Like that. It's the same kind of same idea, right? So, what I find is that if people waited until their life was absolutely perfect, no one would ever be a coach. And it's a misunderstanding of what the coaching world is. We're not dispensing knowledge. We're dispensing curiosity and empowerment. And you dispense empowerment by caring, by putting yourself over there on the other side so deeply. To me, that's the heart of the coaching process.
I actually find that people trust me more, want to work with me more because I have shared imperfection and I have shared those vulnerabilities. And actually, I'm grateful for those because it also helps me. It is easier for me to step into people's shoes because I am not looking at things from a lens of pure perfection. It's like in the 2.0, we're learning some of those tools, and it's like, it doesn't really matter if the system or tool doesn't work. We want to see what we learn from it and exploring it. It's not the execution of perfection, it's the learning and growth from it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It'd be like asking yourself, or going to a trainer, like, or being a let's say a sports trainer, and say, I am not going to be a sports trainer. I can't train this other person until my body is perfect, and then I'll train. But only until then. I'm not doing anything until this temple is ideal.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things coming to mind. I mean, my hairdresser I used to go to I mean, if you want to even look at things like that and didn't have hair like mine.
Right.
She had dreads, they were green dreads. It didn't make any difference how different we were to the service that she was providing to me. Um, I loved something that you were saying as well about you were talking about your own journey and what that was like. And I think even if you're not actively coaching, but you learn this ability to really be present and step into someone else's shoes, it it shifts relationships, doesn't it? And the way you have empathy for people.
Totally. Yeah. And then there was something I was watching. So we're getting into media again, like doing more of these, like, and so it's so funny. I feel like Amoy says we should have a camera, like my reactions to things, because they're just silly. They're just silliness. But anyway, I was on TikTok and I was Googling things and I was searching things on TikTok, not Googling. I was searching things on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
And it's fascinating what came up and how much misconception there is about the field of coaching. And I thought, oh no, we got to go. We have to fix this. Like team, we got to go and like really represent what coaching is and isn't. And I feel like there's a lot of work to be done with that. But the number one misconception across the board, it comes from this idea that a life coach has their life perfect, or somehow in all of that comes from a knowledge-based viewpoint.
Mm.
And when people are in a knowledge-based viewpoint, the expert in the room is the one who has more knowledge. Coaches do not work like that. It's not that way. It's empowerment based. And so it's really based on curiosity and asking better questions, not having better answers. So
Are we going to see you on TikTok soon?
I think so. I think we're going to do it. I have a plan. My 15-year-old Paloma, she's amazing. She's going to help me. She's like, Dad, we got this. I'm like, all right, that's right, child.
I'm excited to watch this space. I mean, I'm not on many social media platforms, but I do like to scroll through TikTok. So I'll be excited about that.
I'll make life coach dances. It's going to be great.
We're going to look out for that for sure.
It's fantastic. I mean, I feel like what's cool to me, I mean, it is super cool. I feel like I have a couple, an opportunity to connect with my daughter in a real workspace, in a workspace and talk, about really cool things from a perspective of, looking at the search engine optimization, the analytics, all of the things that are happening. It's just, it's this kind of education that I feel like really helps empower young people how to look at social as a tool and to approach it like a tool. And I mean, I'm not on it a lot, but this is my approach to it. So I'm excited. I feel like it's a way for us to connect in a different arena too. So we'll see. You never know if we'll make co-videos.
I think that was something really interesting you were saying as well. So you're talking about being on social media. Perhaps there is this misconception that coaches need to have it all together, and perhaps coaches who are launching their businesses or posting feel that they need to look like they've got it all together and everything has to be perfect. Yet there's that fine line between being inspiring to people. You're being inspiring. For me, I love to talk about what coaching's done for me and how it's changed my life, and those inspiring stories when I put the work in. How do you think people can find that balance between kind of being real yet being inspiring?
I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know, Raj. If I don't know yet.
Wait and see.
Yeah. I think for me, when I get into this space, I think what would be the most useful, what's going to be the best for the mission. If I'm really trying to impact people through what I've learned from coach training and also pass on the skill sets that I wish I had, that's what I do. I go back to what does the mission require? But I do not know the answer to that question yet. And we'll find out. Maybe there's a scientific way. I'll find out if there's a way to get it. Maybe there's a way for me to scientifically see which posts get more likes or traction. That'll be a real answer to it, but I don't know.
Experiment.